Hello, my podcast friends. And I'm going to start referring to us as winners, as in weight loss winners, because we are transitioning to calling the podcast Weight Loss Winformation. So this is episode 1 of Weight Loss Winformation, but it's really going to be called episode number 231 because I've already done 230 episodes of Bariatric Care, the podcast. So I don't want to discount all those podcast episodes we've already done together. So this is episode 231, now called Weight Loss Winformation. You can still find the podcast on either Bariatric Care, the podcast, or Weight Loss Winformation. So be sure to tell that to your friends when you recommend that they listen. Here's what we're going to be covering in this episode. I like the title. What's weighing you down? The number on the scale or the number in your head? So here's we go. Here's what we're going to be covering in this episode. What are people's goals when they actually set out to lose weight? And how does the medical community, and how do you specifically determine what a healthy weight is? And then we'll talk about what actually is a healthy weight for you and for your body. Then we're going to end every weight loss Winformation podcast with a Get Real. So we're going to talk about your Get Real Winformation adventure for the week. So let's get started with, why do people want to lose weight? Well, as you know, I've been working in the bariatric industry for over 20 years. Now, people confuse the word bariatric because they oftentimes assume that bariatric means surgery, so weight loss surgery or a surgical weight loss procedure. But bariatric is the study of the disease of obesity or weight issues in general. So don't confuse the term about bariatric medicine. If you're struggling to lose weight, this information is going to apply to you whether or not you meet the medical criteria for the definition of obesity. That's not the issue. The issue is you want to lose weight. You want to live longer. You want to have a better health. And that leads me to what I hear from people for their reasons why. What is your why? What are the reasons you want to lose weight? And from what I hear from people, it's they want to get rid of some medical conditions, or they want to prevent comorbid medical conditions often associated with having extra weight. They want to be able to do things that they can't do while carrying extra weight, such as go on family vacations and not hold people back, or they want to look better, or they want to feel better, or they want to wear clothes in a store that is not a plus size store. Whatever their reasons. So that's what I hear from people. And then I looked it up. What are the reasons people want to lose weight? And all of those things were in there. Improved health, improved mobility, depending on your weight and how that's affected your joints and for how long you've carried extra weight. Maybe your mobility has been impacted. People want to prevent weight-related problems, or they want to reduce ones that they already have, and they for sure want to live longer. Appearance is often a factor when people say, I want to lose weight. I want to look better. I want to be able to feel better in my clothing. They want to improve their confidence. And they want to engage more fully in life. And then what I found online, and this is also true, is that there's a subset of people who intentionally opt to lose weight so they can increase the odds of their conceiving, getting pregnant. So there you go. So I want you to think for a minute, and you've probably done this before, about the reasons that you want to lose weight. Did I cover them in that list? Do you have several of those in mind? Or do you maybe personally have a different reason? I've also known people who have done revenge weight loss. They're going to get back at an ex. Well, that doesn't usually last long. Sometimes it doesn't even get very far, but that's a motivator for some people. And then we're going to talk about next how the medical weight loss defines a healthy weight. But more importantly, and as I go through this, I want you to be thinking about, how do you define a healthy weight? not for the general public, but for yourself. So, of course, we all know that in the medical community, they use things like, you're not going to like it, of course, BMI. They also use things like waist measurement and a few other things. But we're going to look at this traditional model. It's a medical model for determining a healthy weight. We've all heard of body mass index, or the BMI, and what the National Institutes of Health has to say about the reason that it's a pretty typical way that the medical community measures weight or defines weight as being healthy or not is because it's easy, right? They calculate it from your height and your weight. It's an estimate of the amount of body fat that you have. And according to the NIH, a good gauge of your risk for diseases that increase as fat content or fat, the more fat that you carry, these illnesses are more likely to increase with it. So the advantages of using a BMI is that it's simple and convenient. We know this. It's easy to calculate. It's a screening tool. It can be used as a tool to identify people who may be at risk for future health-related problems related to weight and carrying excess fat. They can also use BMI as a useful tool for kind of tracking trends in obesity rates with various populations, gender, age, different cultures, different ethnicities. And then they can evaluate the effectiveness of some of the interventions aimed at reducing weight. So there are some purposes for it. And research will tell us that the BMI does correlate with health outcomes. So studies have shown, and you've heard this is no surprise to anybody, not new information here on the Weight Loss Winformation podcast, but we'll get to some fun stuff, that the higher your BMI, the greater risk of chronic diseases such as, these heart disease, high blood pressure, having strokes, type 2 diabetes, and certain types of cancer. So it can be used for most men and women, but it does, of course, have some limits. It can overestimate body fat in people who are like bodybuilders or weightlifters, or people have a super muscular build. So their BMI may be higher, but it's not a good indication of how much body fat they're carrying. Or for older people or people who have lost muscle for different reasons, it may underestimate body fat. So there are some limitations. It doesn't differentiate body composition. So a lot of people like to get on those body comp scales because it'll tell them, you haven't lost numbers on the scale, but your muscle tone, you've increased muscle mass, or your body fat distribution is different. People will lose inches in waists and arms and things. So it doesn't differentiate how much fat and muscle. So that's not a great thing. And BMI is not the most reliable measure for certain populations, like we mentioned, athletes or pregnant women for sure. And even older adults, because your composition, the things that make up your body, and different health risks differ significantly for these groups of people than for the general population. And sometimes the BMI can overestimate a risk for some people. So it might overestimate your risk for people who are lean but have a high percentage of body fat, such as athletes and people with different medical conditions. And the BMI is certainly not a complete picture of health. Doesn't take into things like diet, your exercise, your lifestyle. So you may be living a really good lifestyle, but it's not reflected in your BMI. So the conclusion is that BMI can be a useful tool. Of course, it's got limitations, and it's not going to be the sole determinant of a person's health status. It's kind of like, I've done a lot of work with the surgical weight loss population, and when we do a pre-surgical psych evaluation, we use a tool called the personality assessment inventory. Some people use other tools, but These are a general look at a person's personality types, their traits, the way they look at the world, certain things like anxiety, depression, other kinds of things, but it's not a whole person view. So we use that as one piece of information, and then we talk to the person. We look at the medical records and we put all these things together. So BMI is kind of the same. It doesn't measure everything about a person, but it can be an estimate. So like I said at the beginning, there are other things the medical professional use to assess whether a person is at a healthy weight or if maybe they're overweight or obese. And one of those things is waist circumference. Another is waist to hip ratio or waist to height ratio and body measurement. And one of the ones that's more common than some of those others is the waist circumference. And again, this information is from the National Institute of Health, and I will link this article in the show notes. But they say that measuring waist circumference can help screen for possible health risks that come with being overweight or having the disease of obesity. And the deal is, according to the NIH and medical professionals, is if most of your fat is carried around your waist rather than in your hips or maybe your thighs, your risk for developing heart disease and type 2 diabetes is higher. And that risk goes up at a waist size that's greater than 35 inches for women or greater than 40 for men. So we don't want to look at that, but that has also been shown to be a fairly effective measure. And then there's my least favorite of all, and probably yours too. You know those height and weight charts, the tables that they have in doctor's offices a lot of time? Well, this is kind of interesting, and I wasn't aware of this till I started doing a little bit of research on this. It was originally devised in 1943, before pretty much anybody listening to this podcast was born, for sure. And it was revised then again in 1983, which again is getting to be quite a while ago. And then they have the height and inches, and then they have small, medium, or large frame. Well, who's gonna decide that? And then they have this weight range. Well, you can decide if you think this is a good measure or not. Personally, I do not, because it does not take into account a lot of things that goes into the weight to a person's weight. So, let's just play for a minute here. Play with me. I'm a little loony and a little creative sometimes. My creativity is sometimes a little loony. But let's pretend that you and I are going to define a healthy weight, and we're going to leave out the whole BMI thing. We're not going to say, what's your BMI? We're not going to use that NUMBER number. We're not going to use the number that is your waist circumference. And we're certainly not going to use those numbers on that godforsaken chart that we'll find plastered on the wall in the doctor's office. We're going to leave these completely out of this discussion and out of the definition, our working definition that I like, and I made this up, and you can choose to adopt it, or you can think it's just as worthless as what you might think the BMI is. That's up to you. I personally like this, and I would encourage you to at least consider this or play with the possibility of using some of my definition as part of your working definition of a healthy weight just for your body, not anybody else's, just yours. Because I've had people tell me, I don't want to lose that much weight. I don't want to be like that thin. That would look silly on me. And I agree with that. So those charts with the low range and the high range, those would be an absolute absurd measure for some people, given some other things. So we're going to take the numbers of the BMI out of the equation, out of our definition. We're going to take the numbers of waist circumference out of our definition. We're going to take the numbers from the chart on the doctor's wall out of our definition. Those things, those pesky little things called numbers. I've never been good with numbers. I honestly was terrible at all things mathematical. And I don't know why they're absolutely necessary. I just don't think they are when we're talking about a healthy weight. Listen carefully, because I'm going to repeat those words and I want you to let them sink in. And it might make you gasp with terror. If it does, that's okay. Stick with me here. Numbers are not the thing that determine a healthy weight, regardless of what chart you find it on, or BMI table or waist circumference thing. Numbers, no, 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 no. But here's the problem with the working definition that I have come up with that I really like. The problem is you've got to make a decision. You've got to make a decision if you are willing to get rid of those pesky little numbers that you have in your head. And I'm not talking about the BMI, and I'm not talking about your waist circumference. The number I'm talking about that you have stuck in your head is one that is always less than your body's going to make it to. Not always, but come on. More times than not, the number you carry around in your head, the one that you want to be at, just a little bit out of reach of what your body wants to go to. It's a number that you obsess over. If I could just get to X number on the scale, if I could just, whatever that number is, are you willing, just like you want to get rid of the BMI, just like you want to not think about that waist circumference number, just like you don't want to think about the numbers on that chart, are you willing to part with that imaginary magical number you carry around in your head if it meant living more peacefully in your head and more healthfully in your body? All right, play with me here. Remember how stupid and useless you think that BMI number is? Remember how you talk about that chart on the wall in the doctor's office as being absolutely ridiculous. You and your friends, oh my God, you just scoff at it, BMI. Oh my God. We all know that's a worthless thing. And, we don't even want to think about that number, about our waist circumference. All right, newsflash, my friends. Your number, your imagined magical number on that scale, that number you think you need to get to, is as worthless a number as those other measures of body weight that we talk about as being absurd. Gulp, gulp, hold your breath, cough, choke. Take a deep breath, my friends. That number you carry around in your head that you think you need to get to is as worthless as any of the other numbers that we talked about, maybe even more so. It's just as absurd, because that number, my friend, my weight loss winner friend, does not bring with it that golden ticket you think it will bring. You think it's going to bring about numerical weight satisfaction. Oh, no, it does not, because then it's going to change. You think it's going to bring with it heaps of self-confidence and self-esteem, and you'll never doubt yourself again. No, it doesn't. You think this number, when you finally reach this number, it will obliterate the negative self-talk that you pummel yourself with day in and day out. Am I right? No, it won't. No number can do that. You might think that number that you carry around in your head as being the number to get to will deliver your person in shining armor. Oh no, it will not. It will not bring sunlight and rainbows that will follow you throughout your day for the rest of your life. It will not. Again, I say, my winner friends, my weight loss winner friends, get used to that. I'm going to say it a lot. No number on a scale will ever, 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 ever do even a fraction of what people hope it will do. And a majority of people that I have worked with over these 20 years have this number, and they chase it, and they chase it for years and sometimes even decades. And this causes you turmoil and emotional pain and mental fatigue, and it does you a major, major, major disservice. Because like it or not, my guess and my experience, not only with people I've worked with as patients, but with myself in the past, is that this number that we strive for, we allow it in some way to measure our self-worth. We allow a number on a scale to start our day off great or poorly. We allow a number on a scale to bring us being Miss Sunshine into the kitchen when we greet our family, or Grumpy Gus. We allow a number on a scale to be the factor that influences whether we greet our people that we love, that we want to live longer for, either kindly and happily, or we take out our frustration on them. It's a number. It's not your worth. It is not your value. So, isn't that the truth? Isn't that what you do when you get on the scale and you don't like what that number says? Do you not devalue yourself as a person? Maybe you've come a little ways and you don't do that to yourself anymore, but I'm telling you, a lot of people do. I did. I don't even use the scale. That is not a thing. We don't own a scale. I haven't had one in my home for a long, many decades. Scale's not a bad thing. I'm not opposed to a scale, unless you define your value by it, unless you take out your frustration about the number on the scale on the people you love, or the people at work, or people you don't even know. I'm not against weighing and measuring yourself as a tool by which you keep yourself accountable. I'm against a scale if you allow it to depress you, or ruin your day, or ruin the day of other people. So again, I'm going to ask you, as we go about defining what I believe truly is a great definition of a healthy weight for you, for your body, if you're willing to consider forgetting about numbers. You don't have to forget about the number on the scale. That's not what I'm asking you. What I'm asking you is to forget about the number that you think you have to get to. I've had friends that have lost a significant amount of weight, and yet they say, but it's not enough. If I could just lose 5 more pounds. If you could lose 5 more pounds, then what? Nothing will change. Nothing. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but still, you know what I'm saying. I've worked with so many people who have had weight loss surgery and have lost 80, 130, 220 pounds, and they still say, I haven't reached my goal weight, and I want to come out of my skin when I hear those words. So rather than screaming and hollering the things that are actually in my head, I ask a series of questions. I say, have you improved your health? Well, yeah, I sure have. Well, how do you know? Well, I'm not taking as many medicines as I have before. My cholesterol's gone down. My A1C is good. Wow, that's really awesome. Are you doing things that, you said you wanted to do before? Oh my gosh, let me tell you. We went on vacation with my family and I was able to keep up. And you know what? I didn't even use the seatbelt extender on the plane. Oh my gosh, I'm doing so many awesome things. Have you increased the odds of living longer? Well, that's what the doctors are telling me. Okay, so when you set out to lose weight, you told me you wanted to improve your health. You wanted to do the things you wanted to do. You wanted to improve the odds of living longer, and you've done those things. Tell me, what's this obsession with that number? Be honest. Are you there? Have you been there? We need to look at that because that is a method of self-sabotage. That is a certain way to keep yourself never satisfied. A lot of people grew up with the message, it's never enough. No matter what I do for mommy or daddy, it's never enough. That was a real message. So why are you doing it to yourself now? You didn't like it then. Maybe mom and dad aren't doing it to you anymore, but you're doing it to yourself. That's not a wise decision, I'd say. All right, so for me and for you, those of you who want to be weight loss winners, who want to live at a healthier weight for your own unique body, we're going to focus on more important things than numbers. Much more important. We're going to focus on things that are more important numbers to determine if you're at a healthy weight for your body. And since we're going to be basing our definition on a weight that is unique to you, your individual body, not your sister, not your neighbor, not the person at support group, not the person in your diet club, not the other person on GLPs, not the other people who've had bariatric. No. I want you to think about your unique self. Take into consideration the reasons you started out wanting to lose weight, or if you haven't started to lose weight yet, what are your reasons? And then when those things come to fruition, remember the reasons you wanted to lose weight, because I'll guarantee you nobody has ever said, I want to lose weight so I'm at this number. It's only when they get the things they said they wanted that that number becomes a new problem, which isn't a problem at all. You make it a problem. All right, think about this. Weight is determined by so many factors. So many factors. Some factors you can control and some that you cannot control. And in all the work that I do, I say, let's focus on those things you can control, not just with your weight, but in your life. I had a conversation with a woman today who was all ticked off at her mom because her mom wasn't responding the way she wanted to, and her mom was responding the way she always did, and she didn't want her mom to respond that way. And I said, your mom's responding like your mom. Do you expect her to respond like, the woman you work with at the office? She's your mother. She responds like your mother. It's consistent. Yes, but I asked her to, not talk about that. Good, that is an awesome boundary. But she didn't do it. She's not obligated. You have the right to ask. She has the right to ignore. It's going to frustrate you, and your feelings are valid for sure. But you can only control what you ask and how you respond to her and letting her know how it feels. Same with weight. You can't control certain factors like genetics. You can't control your age. You can't control your gender, although people are starting to alter that, which is fine. But it might not make a difference in terms of your weight, although hormones can alter that. That's not the issue here. But for the majority of people, you can't alter some of those things: genetics, age, gender. Our bodies respond differently. Our bodies store fat differently in different places. Our appetite is regulated at different rates. We respond to weight management efforts differently. Some people have bariatric surgery and lose tremendous amounts of weight where others don't lose as much. Some people take GLP-1s and lose tremendous amounts of weight and other people don't lose as much. Some people go on intermittent fasting and do great, others do not. So we can't control a lot of that. And I'm going to tell you a story, and you've probably heard me talk about this, especially if you've listened to the Bariatric Care podcast for a long time. But this story illustrates how we do not get to control many things about how much weight we lose. Because if we could, here's how this would play out. We're going to play Island Adventure. And the Island Adventure is the story of 100 men and 100 women who all go to the island, wherever that island is. And in our experimental group, all 100 men are 6 feet tall. All right? Let's say a 6-foot tall man should weigh 180 pounds given the BMI number and the chart doctor and all the things. All right? Let's just say that's supposedly the healthy weight for the 6-foot tall male with an average build. Now let's say we take 100 females, and those females are all 5'4", and theoretically they shouldn't weigh more than maybe 130 pounds, give or take their body build. All right, but let's say we have all average sized women. So there we go. We know what the standards are. We have all the men and all the women are the same height, the same height and the same, not weight, but they should all weigh the same after a year on our island where we're having our adventure. And what the island adventure consists of is eating the exact same number of calories at the exact same times and the exact same micronutrients for 1 year. So everybody eats the same thing at the same time every single day for a year. And in addition, every one of those people exercises the same amount of time, the same kind of exercise at the same time of day, drinks the same amount of water for a year. Now, if we were, if there weren't things we couldn't control, and we controlled all those things we could, everybody would come out the same exact weight after a year. But that isn't how it's going to turn out, is it? Because we can't control your genetics. We can't control the rate at which your body metabolizes things. We can't control how your body stores fat or where your body stores fat. We can't control your appetite control centers. We can't control your age. We can't control your gender. We can't control your genetics. We can't control certain medical conditions that you might have or certain medications you have to take to treat those, all which affect weight. So, for my purposes, and maybe for yours, we're not going to put too much energy into trying to change our age, because it ain't going to happen. We're not going to try to change hundreds of years of our genetics. Those things do change over time, but we're not going to change it from last week. So start thinking about that number that's made you crazy for so long. The one you obsess about and think life will be all better when you get there. So hopefully you've already started to make the connection that your number isn't going to take into account some of these unmanageable things, the things we cannot control related to your weight. So what we are going to focus on in our efforts in weight loss Winformation are the things that we can put effort into and influence. And what are those things? What do we have influence over as adults? Now, if you're a child, some of this doesn't apply, but I'm assuming I'm talking to an adult. And as an adult, even though it's hard, don't lie to me about how hard it is, because I'm going to tell you I know it's hard. But you do have the ability to make small changes, even if they're small changes. I'm all about small changes. If you want to change, I don't care if you make any change if you don't want to change. But if you say you want to change, there are things that can lead to change. You do have control over your environment, which means you get to control what you bring into your home. You don't get to control what other people bring into your home, but you can control what you bring into your home. We'll talk more about that another day. You have control over what you put in your office desk drawer. You have control over what you allow in your car as far as food and everything else goes. You need to acknowledge, you don't need to, but I'm hoping you will, acknowledge that you are in charge of your environment to a great extent. Maybe not completely because others live there, etc., etc. But you can make a change in your environment. You can choose not to bring tempting foods into your house, foods that are tempting to you. You can choose not to bring trigger foods into your house or put them in your desk drawer at work or stop and get them on your way home. You do have choice over your environment. We're going to focus on that. That's important. That's something you can do. You do, for the most part, have influence over your food choices. We're not going to talk about the fact that healthy food is more expensive than not healthy food. That will also be another day. But you have some choices over what kinds of foods you put into your mouth. And you have choices over your portion sizes. Bring me your arguments, we'll discuss. But for the most part, you have influence over your food choices. You also, for the most part, not every human being, but for the most part, you have influence over how much physical activity you choose to engage in. What kind, how much, and how often. You can make changes in those. That's within your area of influence. Most people have some influence over how much sleep they get. I understand there's insomnia, there's narcolepsy, there are other things, but generally speaking, you can influence how much sleep you get, which influences your weight. Stress impacts weight. You have influence over whether or not you choose to learn stress management skills, whether or not you take some time to engage in relaxation, whether or not you choose to learn what a healthy coping skill is and put effort into incorporating it into your life. You have influence over whether you make a preparation plan for holiday meals, for family gatherings, for the family reunion, for the class reunion, for wherever there's going to be a whole bunch of food. You can make plans to keep yourself food safe. Your social support, to a large degree, you have influence over boundaries you set with people, relationships you cut off. You have the ability to seek a social network, a social support network. You have a lot of influence over some of that. You have influence over your self-worth. Maybe you came into adulthood with low self-esteem because you were bullied at school, or maybe your parents or your grandparents made fun of you, or somebody picked on your weight or your hair color, whatever. And it does affect our self-esteem as adults. But as an adult, you have the ability to seek therapy, to learn skills for improving your self-esteem, because our self-esteem is very related to the choices we make about our lifestyle. Your lifestyle, in many ways, reflects your level of self-worth. So if I'm not behaving in healthy ways, not just with food and exercise, but many other areas of my life, it can be a signal that I'm not feeling too good about myself. It's an indicator, not the indicator, but it is something you have influence over. You can learn skills to improve your self-worth, to change negative thinking, to treat yourself with more compassion, with more patience. You have the ability to seek help to resolve childhood issues that are interfering with your adult coping skills. So there are many things related to your weight loss, and your ability to sustain the behaviors to maintain that weight loss. Because a lot of people can lose weight, they can't keep it off because they go back to the old habits. So there are things that you can do that you have control over, that you have influence over. And those are the things that you have to make a choice about. And these have nothing to do with numbers, my friends. Your environment, the things you choose to put in your mouth, the portion sizes, whether or not you exercise, how much sleep you get, whether you choose to find ways to manage stress, whether you engage in social support, and how you choose to develop your self-esteem and self-worth. So, from this part of the discussion, I hope it is very clear to you that because of those very powerful things that you don't have control over, your age, your genetic history, your gender, it's clear that you're not going to be able to dictate to your body the number you want to get to. So that number you have carried around in your mind, it doesn't care. It doesn't care. It says, It might be laughing at you, saying you are really comical. If you think that given your genetic history, look at the people in your family. Do you think you're going to get down to 117 pounds? What? It's not going to happen. But if you decide in your mind, that's the number I got in my head and I'm not going to be happy until I get in there, then you're planning not to be happy. And you're setting yourself up for failure, and it is self-sabotage because your body doesn't give a rat's patoot what that number is. Your body is going to respond to things you can't control and things that you can. But you cannot dictate to your body an absolute number, right? So please consider letting go of your number and focus more on your life. We want you to be healthy and to live a healthy life. So how about this? A healthy weight for your body is a weight at which you are as healthy as you can be given your genetics, your age, and your gender. For example, I have high blood pressure and high cholesterol, and I fall within those nice little numerical categories defined by the medical community. There's no reason, given my exercise, which is almost every day, the way that I eat, which is at least 85% healthy, there's no reason for me, based on my behaviors, to have high blood pressure and to have high cholesterol. I'm older. I have a very strong family genetic history in those things, and I can't control them. So I do what I can to influence those things by continuing to exercise regularly, by continuing to eat healthy. But my genetics, I can't change. There are also people who I've worked with who are considered morbidly obese. They got no blood pressure issues. They got no cholesterol issues. They got no diabetes. Again, maybe it's their age, maybe it's their genetics. But we can't influence that. So the number is irrelevant. But a healthy weight for your body is a weight at which you are as healthy as you can be, given your age, genetics, and gender, and the effort that you put into your health. You're able to engage in the activities that you want to engage in. So the things that you can do, if you're able to improve them, if you're able to positively influence them, then you know what? Those things that you want to do, like improve mobility, keep up with the family on vacation, walk in the Thanksgiving gobble jog, ride that roller coaster, sit in the airplane seat without the seatbelt extender, cross your legs, feel better about how you look, feel better about how you feel physically, emotionally, improved energy. You're increasing the odds of preventing medical issues and increasing the odds of improving your longevity so you can hang around, do the things you want to do with the people you love. That's living a healthy lifestyle. So our definition, living at the best health for your body. The best health for your body, given the things you can't control and putting effort into the things you can, being able to do all those things I just listed and so many more, the things that you enjoy, and increasing the odds of living long to be with your peeps. Now, that sounds like an incredible definition of a healthy weight for your body. I'm at the healthiest weight I can be, given the things I can't control. I'm doing the things that I want to do, and I'm doing them with the people that I enjoy doing them with. If that is the case, you are at a healthy weight for your body. Your body might lose more weight, go for it. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying, if you're the healthiest you can possibly be, you're living the fullest life you possibly can. You're increasing the odds of your living longer. You are at a healthy weight for your body. Now, your mind might need some work, but Healthy weight doesn't necessarily correlate with a healthy mind, but I think a healthy mind correlates better with a healthy weight. But hey, all right, so now you're thinking, okay, I get it, makes some sense, but it's only good for other people because me, you're so accustomed to judging yourself by that dang number. It's fine for other people to go along with that, Connie, but not me. I got to be up there and wait. Then I'm going to be happy. Prince Charming's going to come. My life is going to be joy-filled. And let me tell you what happens. Because I've worked with so many people who've gotten to a healthy weight for their body by my definition or by meeting their absurd, ridiculous, made-up number. And guess what? They're not happy and they're disappointed. I thought when I got here I would be all happy and my love life would be perfect and my job, I'd be promoted and, maybe the world would bow down and love me. And that doesn't happen. That's a head thing. We can work on that too. But a weight ain't going to get you there. But you can be at a healthy weight for your body and not deal with a number. Deal with your health. Do you take a bunch of medications for health issues? If not, are you doing the things to maintain your health? Are you engaging and able to engage in the things that you want to be able to do with the people that you love, that you say you want to live longer for? I'd say that's a healthy weight for your body. So don't think you're like terminally unique and that's fine for everybody else, but not for you. It is okay for you. Because if you are shackled, imprisoned by the number on that scale, you are not living fully. And believe it or not, there are people who choose that. And we're going to talk about that next week. Why do I choose to remain shackled to the number on the scale? That will be next week's episode. But what I can tell you is that I can help you, and you can help you, and other people and other resources can help free you from the shackles of being so tied to a number on a scale. But you got to want to be freed. You got to be willing to let go of it. Again, I'm not saying don't weigh yourself. Weigh yourself as a measure of accountability. But that number, free yourself from a number you've decided brings happiness. It doesn't. So, as the title asks, the title of today's podcast episode, what's weighing you down? The number on the scale or the number in your head? Because the number on the scale may say, you know what, you're in perfectly good health. You are able to go out and do all those things you enjoy, and you're increasing the odds of your living longer with the people you love and want to live longer for. But in your head, you're like, that number on the scale is weighing me down so much because it's not the number I want it to be. We need to get over that, friends. We need to get over that. We need to work on that. All right. So to help answer that question, use this week's Get Real. Get Real. We're going to be getting real in our podcasts. Use this week's Get Real Winformation Work It. Not work out, but work it for this week. You might get a kick out of my title for this week's Get Real activity. It's called the Hall Pass. Now I know what you're thinking. Naughty naughties. But maybe it'll make you chuckle, right? I'm not talking about a hall pass in the sense of what you're thinking. I'm talking about HALL as an acronym. For you to ask yourself anytime you think about yourself or your weight in a negative way, which is probably frequently. So if you get on the scale and you're dissing yourself, or if you're just thinking about your body and you're like, oh, I'm so fat and I don't like it. Here's what I want you to ask yourself. Use your hall pass, and here it is. All right, H stands for health. Am I or working toward improved health? To the best of my effort, given my genetics, age, and gender. Health. Are you working towards your health? The A stands for able. Am I able to do the things I want to enjoy doing? That's what you said you wanted. And the L's, the HALL, H-A-L-L, stands for living longer. Am I increasing the odds of my living longer by putting effort into my healthy lifestyle? LL, living longer and loving, triple L. We'll make it HALL. So anytime you find yourself upset about your weight or thinking about that number this week, give yourself a hall pass. It'll make you chuckle, and then use the letters in the word hall. Am I working on my health? Am I able to do the things I want to do? And am I increasing the odds of my living longer? So maybe you'll think about adopting my definition of a healthy weight for your body, which is living at the best health for your body, being able to do the things in life that you enjoy doing, and increasing the odds of your living longer to be with the people you love now. So, see you next week when we talk about the reasons people choose, and yes, I said choose, to hold on to that dang number on the scale. All right. So what I want you to do is consider thinking about a healthy weight for your body as defined by our definition. Living a quality life, doing the things you want to do, having good health. All right? Meaning it doesn't get in the way of what you want to do. Now, the head issues associated with that we will tackle in future episodes. But remember, your health, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, financial, social, is your relationship. No. Your health is your responsibility. This day and every day. So let's work on that. Enjoy your hall pass. I'll see you next week. Bye.